Right, popping out chat. Well, thank you for joining us again for episode 100 of SEO Fight Club. So we got a pretty cool show for you today. I know that we mentioned a lot of really lame ideas about what we're going to do for episode 100. So I didn't, I kind of like those ideas we put out there, but I realize they also suck and they're boring. So I decided to really drop some value with episode 100. So I hope people enjoy what we're going to do. And with that, I'm going to start some boilerplate. So SEO this week didn't happen this week, but it will be back next week. It's an awesome SEO show where Clint does audits and tutorials and reviews the SEO news and does all those types of things, and he's very tactical about his knowledge. So he gets into the weeds and show you how things work in the simplest possible way so that you can walk away with some new tactics. And so it's a very cool show. If you haven't seen it, go to YouTube, search for SEO this week. It'll be the #1 result. Likewise, the SEO video show is another great show. It's an interview show where you can hear interviews from other prominent SEOs and figure out how they work their magic and how they got to be where they're at. And if you like knowing the stories and learning about the people in your industry, the SEO video show. Again, just search for it by name on YouTube. It'll be the first result. So let's see, Lauren, what's happening on IMG?
Yeah, so we just released Genesis Keyword Research by Leo of Keyword Cupid. And that course is getting a ton of viewership. A lot of people are really seeming to like it. So we're excited about that. And Leo is actually going to do an AMA with us where he goes through all the Python scripts that he talks about and any questions that people have about the course. So that's the big update from this week. And then we have a pro tip on Friday. And then Ted, you and I are going to be in the meeting room on Tuesday morning for another AMA.
Yeah, those, if you want to know our secrets, I am known for spilling all my secrets in these AMAs. So if you want to know the deep dark secrets of SEO, you ought to attend. I don't know if Kyle spills all of his secrets. If he doesn't, then come on my AMA and I'll spill all of his secrets for him.
Yeah, I
Apparently,
love it.
apparently it's only 50-50 I'm going to make mine. But last time I was having a croissant and a nice cup of coffee, and then checked that my Skype was blowing up, and I was like, oh, shit.
So Kyle, are you a bit nervous that your course might be unseated by the new Keyword Cupid course?
I hope it is. Like, it's good stuff. It is fantastic. So
yeah, I
it's
think
definitely worth a watch.
I think this is the one that'll finally dethrone Kyle Roof's white hat SEO.
I am A-okay with that.
Nice. All right, let's get into our show. So the first thing I want to do is talk about the Google update that's been going on for the past 20 some days, 22 days now. So it was dubbed the passage indexing update. Google announced that passage indexing was live, and then volatility has been pretty much constant ever since that announcement. And the interesting thing to me about it is that it looks just like a core update would. It's just not as big yet. And so I'm going to show that. But this type of information and analysis we provide to subscribers at IMG on a regular basis. It's the type of Google update analysis that we just put into our offering along with the courses and the community and the events and everything. So I'm going to show you what I basically showed our subscribers 2 days ago. Now, it's only happening today because it's the 100th episode. So I got to drop some value to make this episode special. All right. So the first thing I wanted to call out, I was doing test searches, and what I've seen a lot in this update is that, it appears that Google is applying BERT to primary index uh, entries, so search results that are in the primary index, and it seems to be something that largely is going to affect pages that get a decent amount of traffic from questions. So I think the reason why a lot of people are saying, oh, this is a very mild update, is that maybe those people who are saying that don't have pages where the traffic is organically driven by long tail questions. And so I think a lot of long form content and a lot of question based targeting probably got hit the most by this update. While putting in questions, I noticed this phone number treatment from the featured snippet, and I haven't seen this one before. I'm not sure that it's part of the update. I just, I haven't really dug into featured snippets. I don't know when it was added, but I don't see it very often. And it struck me as, wow, that might be compelling for certain types of lead gen. And I wonder, is there an art to getting that to trigger? Like, can you do that? Can you get a phone number presented like that in any featured snippet? Or are there certain, uh, you know, characteristics that have to happen with the keyword, with the content in order for that to happen?
I bet you Google fixes that.
What's that, Clint?
Said I bet you Google fixes that. No way they're going to give away free phone calls like that.
So I thought that was remarkable. So it kind of stopped me in my tracks. And so if you're into testing, this could be a cool one to test. And if you're into making money with lead gen, then this is probably a hot topic, and you're probably pissed at me for announcing it to the world. But I thought that was cool. So this update. So what we have here is aggregated weather. These are different weather services. So we have SEM Rush Sensor, Rank Ranger, Advanced Web Ranking, Cognitive, SERPworks, and Bright Local. And so we normalize all of their SEO weather scores and we plot them together. We have our own score that we use for making predictions about when updates are coming. But today we're not actually talking about the predictions. We're talking about the thing that was announced that you can go and see on any of these weather services. So this is the passage indexing update. And what's kind of remarkable about it is how similarly it kind of looks and feels compared to other past core updates. Now, this one, it says 21 days, but this was made yesterday, so it's actually 22 days so far on this. And the May core update was 33 days. The January core update was 27 days. And so it amazes me, first of all, that most of our industry, when there's an update announced, like, hey, there's an update, or Google announces passage indexing is live, the very next week, our whole entire industry calls it done. It's over with. They just say, okay, I'm done with this topic now, and they walk away, and they don't even care that the weather hasn't settled down. And so when you see these charts, they're there should always be a return to baseline, like over here in the corner. I know you can barely see it, but there's a return to baseline. So when I'm counting how long these events are, I'm counting how long does it take for them to return to baseline. And there are often like little updates. And so when Google says they do 200 updates a year, they're mostly little tiny events like this. These events tend to be 2 or 3 a year. And so they really stand out when they happen. But it's remarkable to me when people just kind of call it done without any data. And it seems to me that you really want to know the end date. Like an argument could be made that knowing when an update is over might be more important than, predicting when it's going to happen. Because, knowing when it's over lets you know when, indexing is back to normal, lets you know when you can do your analysis to figure out how you need to pivot your strategies. And it's just so vital. And so one of the things we do on IMG is we do this analysis. We bring alerts, we predict when we can, but then we show you the data. And so the people in our community have known when the rest of the industry doesn't, that these events last much longer than most of the industry is aware of or is letting on. What do you think, Clint? Oh, you're muted. There you
I
go.
was actually reverse engineering your lawyer site. And totally not paying attention to you because I was like, oh, that's cool. But so since I've just mentioned that, I actually looked at it. And typically you drive feature snippets with emphasis and H tags, right? So you want to get a feature snippet to answer your question. The H tag is the question, and then the answer is directly below it in paragraph. And that's exactly how that lawyer site is set up and how they're pulling in that particular passage by exact. So it seems to me if you guys want to try that, I would go for that. Put the question or a variation of the question, like in that case, in his query is who do I call for help? And then in your H tag, don't go write something like call for help, call us for help in whatever city, and try to see if you can game it that way. That's what all those pages are consistently ranking for. And that it just so happens that in Yuma, the same site that is ranking in LA is ranking. So there's got to be a pattern in there, just those H tags. And I think it was Bill Hartzer that showed that H tag and grab for those feature snippets. So that's something you try.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing that. What do you think about our industry calling update events over the week after they're announced?
I before the announcements, I didn't even pay any attention to them before or after, because most of the time they were triggered by comments in the Black Hat forums, and Black Hat forums mentioning changes and stuff. And as you guys know, Black Hats test a lot by virtue of just what they're doing. They're testing things. So they're more sensitive to it. And I kind of watch them. But for the most part, it's from what I found until you made this tool, was that it was all just a guessing game of when is it done? When is it finished rolling out? So they may not be lying. It may be over in their segment, in their data center, but it's not a general statement that you guys should appreciate.
Yeah. And like even currently, I'm still seeing indexing issues during this current update. And with these updates, we often see like a slowdown or a complete stop of processing of like new pages. We often see that existing pages can still be processed just fine, but we often see that new pages kind of get stuck with Google while these large events are going on. And that's what I've been seeing. So if you're out there and you've been having trouble getting new content to index, you're probably hitting the same wall that others of us have seen. Lee, have you had issues with indexing lately?
Little bit. I mean, over the past couple of weeks, not as much, but coming into the past 48 to 72 hours, there's a slowdown. My honey put in a test this morning and it got crawled within minutes, but it had not indexed throughout the day, when a couple of days ago, some of the test pages were indexing within 12 to 24 hours. So we're definitely seeing a slowdown. So I wasn't surprised to see a little bit of turbulence in some of the weather reports today. So we'll have to watch and see when this current spike ends, whether the crawls that we're getting will actually translate into indexing. So, but I know a lot of testers are complaining about slow indexing or spotty indexing.
What I'm seeing in mine is, in particular, you and Lee, you two know the test that I'm referring to, where we lost all those pages. I got them back, and then they left again. And then when I resubmitted it to get them back a third time, they're not doing it. So there may be something in there too, where if you were ranking and your page disappears out of the index, wait a little bit, wait it out before, and then try to get it re-indexed before trying to shove it in there and get it kicked out permanently.
Yeah, that's a good tip. And another thing that we like to do with these updates is we'll often like to look at data before and after the update. So here we have our current update chart. So we'd go just a little bit before and pull the top factor data. And then we'll go just a little bit after the event to get the top factor data. And then we can compare them and tease out clues to how things might have changed as a result of the update. So this is another analysis that we do for these types of events. And what I like to look at is the movers and shakers. And so this time around, I've organized them. Normally, I have to read the tea leaves by going, what patterns do I see, and then telling people. But I found if I just organize them into little groupings, then it becomes easier to see what I'm seeing when I do that. And so I saw, the biggest movers were LSI and entity related. So the biggest movement of number of places in the top factor rankings. And so that seems fairly significant to me that LSI and entities both jumped. Now, I think they move together because most LSI terms are going to be entities. And so it makes sense to me that those two would move together. But that's just interesting to see. Another interesting group was the amount of content on the page. And so when I mentioned my hypothesis that this update might be about BERT being applied to primary index pages, that kind of makes more sense to me. That's like agreement that entities and amount of content would all of a sudden matter more, that BERT is being applied to full pages. Also, keywords and sentences and H2 tags, some notable hot zones of a page. And then, of course, backlinks fell a bit. Just all those signals just dropped together. And I would also expect that out of an update that is giving a boost to some, sort of AI NLP solution that's looking at on-page content. If those things make rankings stronger, then off-page ought to get a little bit weaker. And that's what we saw in this broadly shared data. So before I move on to explaining where this data is from, you guys have any thoughts about these movers and shakers?
Yeah, Ted, what's your thought on when to do this? Is it okay to, like, you're showing that the perhaps the update is not done? Is it still okay to do this type of comparison while it's happening?
That is a great question. And the answer is no, it's not okay. But I'm doing it anyway because people want to know. So the risk is that the update's not over and Google can do rollbacks, they can change more things, they could do rebalancing of things. And so all of this could be different tomorrow if that large update event we are looking at before isn't over. And so that's the risk, is this might all be throwaway work and I'll have to do it again when we have an official end date. But oftentimes official end dates don't line up with show schedules. So we have to make the content work with what we have and then correct it later. So Clint, you had a question, I believe.
I was going to say that it kind of matched what I know you doing. You're going to address this, but you're using shared data, and I use niche related or niche targeted, and they pretty much match with what you're seeing here. So this is, to me, it is interesting. But they're raising the bar for on page, and it appears like they're lowering the bar for off page. I think they're just making it so you don't have to be, if you're not a link builder and you're just doing content, there's a good chance for you to compete with link builders by lowering the value of those the domains and referring domains, etc.
Yep, very true. And it's a very good point that you brought up about the niche analysis, because when I do this analysis, I'm looking at the data across thousands of different keywords and seeing what's broadly applicable and in terms of being a strong correlating factor. When Clint does his analysis, he is looking at one keyword at a time, or a small group of closely related keywords grouped together in a single niche. And that type of analysis is technically better if you're trying to rank a page for those keywords specifically. This type of analysis, I think, is better if you're looking for broadly applicable trends that kind of affect most keywords. But Clint's approach will give better advice in terms of how much you should actually tune to be competitive for that keyword, whereas the numbers that come out of something as broad as my analysis wouldn't be applicable to your page. They're bound to be applicable to a page out there, but it's unlikely to be correct for your specific page and your keyword. So the top factors as of yesterday is this list, and I've highlighted some of the ones that kind of speak to me because they're fundamental, and they're usually ones that people can, latch onto and work with. So unlike the previous display where I was doing the movers and shakers, those are the ones that move the most in this ranked list. Now we're just looking at the top of the list saying, what are the strongest factors according to the shared data? So up here at the top, we just have your good old keyword stuffing, keywords and the HTML tag. The HTML tag is just the whole document right up there at the top. We got factor diversity right there in number 3. So how many different factors have you worked into your content? And when we measure all the factors we know how to measure, more is generally better. So diversity and factors. LSI words and sentences up at number 5. I mean, that's awesome. Keywords and sentences. So these are your variation keywords. So that's at 15. And then, of course, word count there at the number 26 spot. So we have some data here And again, this won't be very applicable to your page. It's just kind of general stats. So what's the measurement for the factor for the number one spot in Google across thousands of keywords? Well, that maximum we found was 1,014 keywords on the page. And that's in the number one spot. When you look across all the search results, it can get much bigger. The page one average for this factor was 167 keywords in the HTML tag. We have our correlation coefficients, and then we have a simple percentage of how broadly applicable was it to our set of thousands of keywords. This factor was a strong factor for 95% of those terms. And so that's what this data is. But using this advice to tune your page is generally bad and oftentimes not good enough in a competitive niche. Doing the analysis Clint's way is better at getting the specific advice you need to compete. You want to add to that?
I wouldn't say that it's necessarily bad as long as you know the types of keywords that are in your shared data. So if you're an SEO and you only do national stuff and national markets, I would expect that this would be a little bit different versus if you were doing just local and competing against Yelp and Home Advisor and all those and the directories. Because when I see keywords and A tags and like number 9 there, number 16, those are really stupid high numbers, and that's telling me that most of these keywords are probably local, and they're probably comparing themselves against like Yelp and the other directories. And when those are there, those A tags always pop up because those sites are full of links, and they're full of links with business names, and business names tend to have the keyword in there. So
yeah, and that can also happen with e-com. You get large navigations that are keyword rich with online retail.
yeah.
But yeah, good point. And so, that type of analysis we do fairly regularly at IMG. And so if you want to check that out more, you just got a sneak peek of what our members get to see in that particular topic. So now I want to switch gears, and since it is episode 100, just kind of look back at all 100 episodes and highlight a few of my favorite that if you didn't catch at the time, you may want to go back and take a look at. So among my favorites, the first two, keyword density and meta descriptions, still applicable today. Those two aged really nicely. So I think that these are pretty fundamental ones. And if you have beliefs about Google's algorithm being so smart that keyword stuffing can't possibly work, then these are going to be shocking for you. So those are good ones. Google time exploit has also aged remarkably well. It's a very technical topic, but it's still very applicable today. I find people with SEO issues on their website when they use lots of JavaScript. Because of that episode, I know exactly when their JavaScript is executing long enough to cause SEO issues. And so Google time exploit is, to me, that one is a great one that is still very relevant. Common SEO mistakes is a classic. Do opposites attract? This one was one I believe Lee was helping with. And this was whether or not Seattle Plumber and Plumber Seattle are the same keyword as Google had said at the time. And so we did analysis on that. And so that episode was all about that. And it kind of debunked that myth that came straight out of Google. What about you guys? What are some of your favorite episodes from the first 50?
Number 11, Joe Priest NLP categories. That
Oh,
one
yeah.
sent me on down the largest rabbit hole ever. I'm still down in there. Thank you, Joe.
That was a good one.
Number 19, link structures. It's still a resource that I go to, especially on what Clint presented on how he does local sites. It's fantastic.
And I think 21, the Matt Diggity episode on affiliate marketing, I think that one was very popular with viewers as well. Lee, what's your favorite?
You know, some of the ones that I've actually picked up the most from are like episode 39, the field observations, when we just, wander into various sites or various little oddities that, they tend to be little comments that are dropped looking at, actual results in the field. And some of those, as Clint said, send me down deep into rabbit holes where sometimes I never come back from. But those tend to be my favorite episodes, just because you never know where the inspiration for other SEO discoveries might come from, and I find a lot of them come from that type of show.
I didn't want to spam the slides with links or anything, so if you want to find these, just go to the SEO Fight Club YouTube channel, and these numbers correspond with the episode number. So if you look for episode 32, it'll be the one on negative SEO. So on the back half of the 100 episode we've managed to pull together, some of my favorites are names of things SEO, which is kind of an online retail SEO tactic. Detecting Google updates, that kind of changed a lot of things for me. A recent one, Goose Egg SEO, it's in 71 because we backfilled a couple episodes. That one's very tactical. Debunking Google's list of things that are not factors, I thought that was hilarious. So that one's a good time. A new type of update just boggles my mind still. I thought that was very profound. But how about you guys? Anything standing out?
The Q&As. Yeah, by this time we started, I think we had really good regular viewership, and I think the Q&As, I would like to think that I got as much out of it as the viewers did, helping, toss around problems and problem solving, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we'll have to do, let's do a Q&A next week. So episode 101 will be a Q&A. How about you, Kyle?
Yeah, like in the 50s and 60s, there's a lot of just kind of some practical stuff on that isn't necessarily SEO, but just like, how to get clients or how to make money or those types of things. And I always enjoy those. And then also indexing has been such a huge issue for everyone in the last couple of years. Kind of the shows on indexing in places, how to put things, will Google index this or that, or the different indexing zones, those types of those shows I thought were fantastic because they're still helpful and still applicable.
How about you, Lee? Any standouts?
Google's list of not factors, because if we have any opportunities to tick off a wide variety of people, those are the shows that do it. And I always think it's good to learn, because you don't know all the stuff and you don't know the most current stuff, which is why we test. So when a factor pops up and Clint goes, I know that's not a factor, I've tested it, it's like, didn't know that, but now I do. So those type of shows are interesting for me, a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's always really interesting to go down a big list of claims and see how they size up with the testing. It's it's a real come to truth moment when you do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why those types of episodes, they're always a fun time for me because to me, I just start giggling at some of the claims. Some of them are spot on. They're not all bad, but some of them are pretty bad. Yeah, so, I just want to thank you guys for being on the show with me and getting to this milestone. It's like we created an SEO course that has 100 modules on it. There's 100 hours of prime SEO content here, and most of it has aged very well. So I look forward to the next 100. So yeah, I can't thank you guys enough, and we'll probably have to get Lee's name onto the banner here at some point as a fourth co-host. He's on the show a lot, so probably time to make an honest SEO of him.
Uh-oh. I gotta go.
But with that, that's our show. Let's see if there's any questions. If you want to ask anything, go ahead. Let's see. Thane says, I like any episode with stories in it, like the Black Friday 500 error one. Yeah, that's a negative SEO one. People's experiences are also interesting. Another comment, time exploit changed my life, and goose egg SEO was fantastic. Let's see. Sean Wright says he remembers the Google time exploit one. Yeah, so that's what we have with these last few minutes. I'll let you guys take a few moments to think about what you would like to see in the coming year out of the show, because I'm going to ask you. But before I ask you that, I'm going to complicate the matter for Clint and ask him when his tool will be ready to be on the show.
We just hired a second dev, so the drop and drag stuff, which is kind of important if you're handwriting schema, you need that. So the drop and drag stuff is being implemented right now. And then Simon asked for the ability to save templates. So you go in there, you go through all the work, you create this nice template, and as it is right now, you download it. We're making it so that you can save it, reload it, and then just change the fields you need to change. And once those are done, I think I'm ready to go live with the public. I don't want to give you a half-hearted tool right now. So, but we're looking at I think it's a week or two, because the new dev has got to get used to what the old dev. If you never worked with devs, that's kind of how it is. Oh no, this code sucks. You got to do it this way. So no, so they're working together now and making sure that nothing gets broken when they're trying to fix things.
Are there decent default templates?
Yeah, you can pretty much now go in there and build a base template for any schema that you want. If you're just doing, for example, let's just say you're just doing the how-to or FAQ schema or organizational schema, you can go in there and do that right now. If you're piecing schemas together, like writing a schema and then attaching it, and then writing another one like article and then organization and then local business, you can go in there and do that right now. But you can't graph properly, which is how I teach in What Ranks in my schema course, with the tool, because you can't drop and drag the additional fields. And once that's in place, you'll be able to graph properly.
And is it in closed beta still? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, well, yeah, you can go sign up for it. There is no sales page. You guys know me, I'm like really shitty at getting sales pages done. So there's a template. If you go to rankgear.com, there's a template there for the sales page. That's what it's going to look like. And if you go to rankgear.com/schema, you can actually, you'll get a login window and then you have to pay and then you can see it. So that's kind of where it's at. So it's open beta, but we're
Well,
not promoting it outside of the two shows. Really, it's the only two places I've talked about it.
there you go. If you want to get in on the paid beta, that's available there. But we'll announce when it's generally available, and we'll have them on the show to walk us through it. Sounds like an amazing technology. Does it also do the doubling core?
It's just schema only, but rank gear will be built out for more tools. So we're already my partner he's a machine learning guy. So you guys are already talking about content editor and making one of those. Well, I know there's plenty of them out there now, but we want to make one. I want to make a rank tracker, taking some of your ideas, stealing them
Awesome.
aimlessly. We already got that in the books to go. Anchor text analysis tool that I talked about before that I tried to have made and lost $15,000 getting junk made. That'll be in there. So that's where that's going.
Well, it's awesome that it's all finally coming together. I
Yeah.
look forward to doing that episode. So, all right, Kyle, what do you want to see on the show this coming year?
We haven't had any guests in a while. I'd like to see a couple more guests. I know you're not huge on guests, but I think we could bring in a few with some ideas and get
I
some other thoughts.
I love guests when they come prepared for a topic. Like the Mad Diggity one was awesome. It's when they just show up and wing it. I'd rather prepare a show instead of those. But yeah, if there's a good guest that is, motivated to teach us all something new, I would be thrilled. Lee, what about you?
I think there's two things that I noticed that that I and others learn from. One is when you have a issues, because we all run into certain technical issues or diagnostic issues or those sort of things. Those kind of in-depth discussions and probes are always good. And as I said earlier, I love the walking through the park. You find a website that has an odd thing and make a show on it. I mean, those are always fun because you never know what you're going to learn. So I'd love to see more of those as well.
Yeah, I could do that. Lauren, do you have any thoughts about what you'd like to see on the show?
Yeah, I love to see anything about testing, and I loved the episode about finding accurate keywords where you looked at that law that accountants use when they tend to do fraud. And
Yeah,
I love that kind of interdisciplinary thinking and all the brilliant minds when you come together and attack something.
yeah.
So that would be really exciting.
I should have highlighted that episode as well with the one with Benford's Law because that one was
Yeah.
just cool. um. So yeah, Clint, what do you want to do on the show this coming year?
I want to do more Q&As. I want to get out there and help the membership. Your members, SIA, or just the people on YouTube, and just do Q&As and help them solve problems. Maybe they just need an extra set of eyes to look at something, and it could be something easy, it could be something hard. But I want to do more of those, and then site audits would be cool. I like you know me. I like doing site audits. They're fun.
Yeah, those are definitely good ideas. I love all these ideas. From the comments, somebody suggested controversial or contradictory test episodes. Yeah, absolutely. We have tests in the past that were true at one point that are false today. It happens. Clint just had a run of the mill test that just tanked, but even in tanking had amazing findings that were being teased out of it. And so yeah, there's stuff like that all the time that's happening. We should point out that stuff even more. Sean mentions that we're getting a lot of spam on our Facebook page. And we're trying to be very good about blocking people. We're very unforgiving on the Facebook page. So when people violate it, they get the permanent ban from the group. We're probably going to have to start getting more restrictive and qualifying the answers to join the Facebook group. It'll clean up. So I see the frowny face in chat, but it'll get better. Let's see. Sean,
monitoring those and keeping it is just a pain. It's a total complete pain. It's like a whole day job. So I don't know. Maybe you guys can do what I did. Is I just promoted some people, normal people that were members, and they wanted to be moderators, and they can help go in there and do that for you.
Yeah. If you're an IMG member and you want to be a moderator, let Kyle Roof know, and we'll get you on a list, and we'll try to get some more moderators. I like volunteering Kyle because now I'm gonna get a talking to later. If not, you can let me know. Let's see. Sean Wright said the marketplace on IMG. Yeah, the IMG marketplace kind of fell flat. There wasn't a lot of early adoption on it, so it kind of died. I like the idea of a qualified marketplace in IMG, but I think it needs to be reinvented into something that people will use. And if we can figure that out, then I'm all for it. Let's see. Well, I think that is it. So I want to thank everybody again. Great 100 episodes. Next week we'll have a Q&A, so come ready with questions and topics you want to talk about. Thanks again, everyone. We'll see you next week.